Modesty. There's three types of modesty that we're going to talk about today. And these three are extremely important. The issue in today's community, not society, in community, in our Muslim community and the way that we are taught, is that modesty is only that which is, don't be afraid to shout out an answer. How dare you shout out an answer? No, it's exterior, right? Physical. We only focus on the physical modesty. Is physical modesty important? Very important, extremely important. Without physical modesty, we see a societal corruption. We see a societal kind of like breaking apart. But there are other kinds of modesty that are taught to us in the Quran that show us that there are other aspects that we should concentrate on. The first is spiritual modesty, right? Everyone point to your heart. Everyone hold your heart. Grab it. Don't be too cool. Hey. There you go. There we go. This is the most valuable thing that you possess. This is the most valuable thing that you possess, your heart. You must protect it at all costs, no matter what it takes. This thing must be protected because this thing is the vessel in which your iman, your faith, is carried. And a way to do that is by, fortifying it and facilitating a space of protection for your modesty. There's a very famous story about, Shaitan in the Quran. Very famous story. How many of you know his name before it was Shaitan? Iblis, right? By the way, there's certain kinds of cultures, I'm not going to call out anyone, Indo-Pakistani Bengali friends, where it just seems like they open the Quran and then pick a word. So I've met Maheen. Have you guys ever heard of Maheen? Has anyone named Maheen in here? That would be bad. Maheen in Arabic actually means, in Arabic, alright, maybe in a different language it means something else, but in Arabic it means humiliated. Or low, right? I've met people with different kinds of names that kind of mean different things. I have a cousin named Claudia, which means the calamity. It's actually a name for the Day of Judgment. It's actually a surah as well. So there's a lot. Well, not my cousin, my wife's cousin, but it's very important. So the point being is, I'm waiting for the day where someone just opens the Quran and is like, Iblis, and the kid's like, no. It's like a baby's like, no, and they're like, yes. So I'm just waiting for that day. But anyway, Shaitan's name was Iblis before he was given that title of Shaitan al-Rajim. And Shaitan had two main problems that he was suffering from, right? One was the one that we all know about. Where he was commanded to prostrate, and we're going to talk about that next. That he was commanded to prostrate and he didn't. That's all aware. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very clearly details to us that in the Quran. Wow, mashallah, it's getting huge. Okay, let's go ahead and move this table. One was a very obvious one. Shaitan's problem was that he was intellectually immodest. We're going to talk about that next. But the spiritual immodesty that Shaitan had was a lack of shukr. A lack of what? What does shukr mean? Gratitude and thanks. Gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we discuss spiritual modesty, what we are talking about, the key word is submission. A lot of young people come to me and ask me different kinds of questions. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And Islam has been broken down to a religion that is purely can and cannot. Can I do this? Yes. Can I not? Can I do this? No. That's all it's become for a lot of us. And I'll be honest, even myself when I was younger, and I kind of went through that spiritual journey that we all go through, that was what it was for me. And so when it became just yeses and nos, binary, black and white for me, I gave up on it. I was like, forget this. I can be a good person. I don't need things telling me what I can do, what I can't. But when you see Islam with a lens of shukr, of gratitude, then it becomes much easier to do things and to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some things, I'll tell you point blank, in Islam, some things will just not make sense. Right? They will just not make sense. A good example is wiping over the socks. I don't want to go into a madhab debate right now, okay? But in general, in Islam, let's say that you have the thickest leather socks that anyone's ever seen in their life, okay? Let's just use the safest example. Come on in. When you wipe over your socks, where do you wipe? On the top. And there's a famous story of Ali ibn Abi Talib where he is giving an example, and he uses this example and he says, if Islam was all about rationality and all about things making exact sense to us, then we would wipe where? On the bottom. Why? Because that's where your foot interacts with the ground. No one walks around like this, right? Wiping their foot wiping the top of their foot on the floor. No one does that, right? But everyone walks with their bottom of the foot. So Ali, he gave this as an example. He said some things, even things as simple as wiping your foot for wudu, when you're wearing socks for masah, some things are just about submitting to Allah, right? Now, why submit to Allah? Someone tell me, why do we just submit to Allah? What if I said, no, I don't want to submit to Allah? Well, okay, going to hell. Okay. Thank you, Uncle G. Thank you. Go ahead. Stay there a long time. Sorry, no offense. I love the Indo-Pak uncles, mashallah. Some of the most sincere. Man, if you go to Fajr on the coldest days in the masjid, sometimes you'll see that they're the only people there. SubhanAllah. They love the masjid and they love praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But why else? Why submit to Allah? Number one, okay, obvious guy. Go to hell, right? But why else? Like, because let's say that the person really doesn't fear the akhirah. Which is, let's be honest, man, like, it happens. A lot of us have gone through phases in our lives where we just don't really think about the akhirah as an immediate response or immediate reaction. Why submit to Allah?
Because Allah knows what's better for you.
Allah knows what's better for you. Is that what you were going to say? Okay, good. Safe answer, right? Because I responded. Because I told him a good answer, and then you were like, yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Allah knows what's better for you. And when someone knows what's better for you, and when someone knows what's better for you to do, then is it a smart decision or a dumb decision to follow what they say? It's smart. The problem is that intellectual or spiritual modesty of humility and of submitting to Allah is seen as kind of dumb. If you tell someone, listen, I submit to my faith, they'll say, why don't you think for yourself? Why don't you think for yourself? But that's the same as saying, well, there's this all-wise, all-powerful, all-knowledgeable being that's giving me some advice and suggestions and commands, but I'm going to think for myself. You see how not smart that sounds? So sometimes when you think about Islam on your own critically, you're able to come to these conclusions, right? One thing I will say, though, is that when you submit to Allah, don't be afraid to ask the question why. Do not be afraid.